Again, guys, thank you so much for giving up a couple hours on your Saturday night. But it is an important topic, which your movie represents, and just everything that Project Censored represents is important for all.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Again for having us.
What we got a lot of questions sent in for you, but what are of all of the different topics, Christopher and Doug, that you cover in the movie and just in general? What are the big hitters? Of course, you talked about 9/11 and about the GMO, the Monsanto stuff. What are the big hitters, especially what's current right now?
Well, definitely the thing I did talk about a little bit already, and that's really showing the people where the money's going when we go to these wars, and what the lies that we're being fed on the backs of our soldiers. I mean, it's pretty sad. That's harsh, because then you get the guys coming back, and then you rarely hear the stories about what's going on with when they come back from war, where they're actually the benefits that they were promised they're not getting, and that's such a huge story that needs to get out. So personally, for me, that's one of the big ones.
Yeah, some of the other stories that Project Censored continues to cover is the emergence of the police state. That's a big topic. Our militarized police forces here in the United States.
Yeah, that's big.
One of the topics in our film, and it was a number one story a few years ago, was the fact that more U.S. soldiers are actually committing suicide and dying by their own hands versus, dying in combat.
Right.
Because, again, they're not getting the social services that they need when they come home from war. And, that's a big topic. We talked to a lot of folks about that, and there's actually a segment in our film touching on that. And, a lot of the economic news, how policy shapes things surrounding our economics. Those are all big types of stories. And, of course, like Chris said, keeping the war machine rolling and keeping profits into, companies like, the Halliburtons
right.
that are out there. So those are, a lot of the stories that, Project Censored continues to cover.
Well, and it's you mentioned about the suicides. Do you think? I mean, there's a lot of post-traumatic stuff that happens. I mean, a lot of these people, and I'm not trying to downplay this war versus any other one, versus World War I, II, Vietnam, Korean conflict, anything. I think a lot of people, though, are if you want to call it, they're modern-day soldiers. They're people with families and kids. I know here in Utah, so many people that have gotten deployed. We've got people in our own family that did several tours, and these people are dropped into it's an unbelievable situation. They're watching the Kardashians at night.
Right.
They're eating McDonald's during the day, and then they're dropped into a war zone, and people are blowing up in front of them. I mean, it's the shock treatment. I think is got to be it's got to be so black and white. It's got to be so horrendous compared to like World War II, where the whole nation gathered together. All the women were building airplanes and putting ammunition together. Here, these are normal working Joes doing 9-to-5 jobs, and they're dropped into these places, and what they're seeing is hard to comprehend to anybody.
Yeah, and unfortunately, war is not good for anybody but the war profiteers. That's been proven historically time and time again. The policymakers, the decision makers, and those that are profiting off war are really the only people that the war is doing any good for. I really still, I say this time and time again. I find it hard to believe that humanity at this point in history, here we are in 2015, and we still have war. We still are killing, our brothers and sisters, our mothers, our children. For me, it's so hard to believe that we still have prejudice, and that people can't realize that, it doesn't matter what the color of your skin or your religious preference or your sexual orientation. I mean, people are people, and when are we going to realize that humanity needs to take care of itself? It's almost like we continue to implode on each other. It's hard to describe and hard to put into words, but I just at this point in history, more people are educated nowadays than any time in history, and it's hard to believe that we still have all of these social ills.
Yeah. Well, that and so many people throughout the whole world, and here in our own country, people are going to bed. Kids are going to bed starving. People are going to bed hungry.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's amazing that we have so much here in our own backyard that we don't look at. I think, again, not going heavy political by any means, but with our economy, my own personal opinion is I think we're on top of another bubble. A lot of indicators are we're going to see another collapse. I find it interesting how so many people over the years can talk about how things have gotten better when people in general have taken huge, ginormous pay cuts. They've lost their 401k, they've lost their investments, and so many people are just scrapping by.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, there are some. There's still lots of issues. In fact, a great film that sort of laid out everything that happened in the Great Recession, just a few years ago, actually won the Academy Award for documentary films, was Inside Job. And if you haven't seen that, it lays out like a roadmap, the blueprint on how, everything sort of led up to, that economic collapse and that recession. It was really, a house of cards that just came crumbling down. But, it was unfortunately by design, and, again, a lot of corporate greed and, unfortunately the gambling machine that the stock market is. Because, there's a lot of folks that will make a lot of money when things are bad, just as they are when things are good.
And that's probably why they're bringing, just to jump in again about one of those most important stories that Project Censored covered, and it actually made the #1 story just a couple of years ago, and that's the military police state. So if, in fact, we are headed that way, economic collapse, a revolution-type scenario, the police state, this is no joke. You're seeing it. You see it out there, what's going on. They're preparing for something,
Yeah, have been for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, and it's I still can't comprehend either how all of this decommissioned military equipment is going to these small little police stations and out in the middle of nowhere in the United States. Do they really need tank-like equipment? I always thought policing was supposed to be a community type service and not not a military type.
Hey guys,
service.
I gotta take a quick station break for our other stations. We'll be right back with Doug and Chris. Stick around, we got a lot more to cover. Fringe Radio. All right, everybody, welcome back to Fringe Radio. Doug Hecker and Christopher Oscar are here. Guys, you guys want to take a quick phone call?
Sure.
All right, this is one of the good guys, all right?
No problem.
Hey, Harv, how are you? You're on with Chris and Doug.
Hey, little brother, thanks, man. You guys were talking about this whole death kill thing. God, I'm so sick of it. We could have got away from it. Should have. But then we didn't. I don't know. Speak up.
Did you hear
I didn't understand the question.
How come we didn't get away from death kill? We should have got away from this death killing thing. 50 years ago? You guys are standing up, and I dig where you're coming from.
Well, there you go. They're two good guys getting the word out. You got to take a look at their movie, Harv.
Which one?
It's called. Go ahead, give it to them. Project Censor.
Project Censor the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, Project Censor the movie.
Yeah, you can download it or buy it. You can go to projectcensoredthemovie.com, or you can go to yekra.com, and that's YEKRA.com. And I also urge your listeners to really go to Project Censored's website, the actual organization Project Censored, the nonprofit, projectcensored.org. They have great links. They've got great information.
How old are you?
How old am I?
Yeah, how old are you, Doug?
I'm 48.
How old are you, bro?
So we're all right around the same age, right around 50.
Yeah.
50. I'm 60. I'm
43.
I'm so sick of war I can barely stand it.
Oh,
I think that's the sentiment with a lot of people, not only in the United States but worldwide. People are fed up with it because they realize that it's a mechanism for profit. It's a mechanism for genocide, and it's not really. War is supposed to only happen in times of when you're being invaded. When's the last time that the United States has been invaded?
I agree with you on that one.
Yep.
And it makes me sick to my stomach that my family tells me things, and I tell them it's like, I'm not buying it. And they try to tell me that I know something that I don't.
Well, it's not good for anybody. Hey, Harv, thanks for calling in tonight. Okay?
Christ almighty, man. Thanks for being there, and love your guest.
All right.
I'm going to get on this stinger.
All right. You have a good night, my friend.
Thanks, little bro.
All right, bye-bye. Well, one of the, yes, I think everybody's in agreement with you guys.
Well, yeah, no, I was just telling my buddy Mike back in New Jersey, he's got a family tavern, Tierney's Tavern. We're sitting down having a cheeseburger, and I was saying, this is just a distraction at work. And what happens with the media is they like to really get us to be the patriots, right? So we're all supposed to just jump in and follow war. And you don't really see on the corporate mainstream media anyone who comes on that they're talking to that says why we shouldn't go. Do you ever notice that?
Yeah. It's
always all the talking heads, 7 different reasons. I think there was a study Project Censor done at one point where it was something like 7-1. Like, the amount of propaganda and how unpatriotic it is to question. I mean, that's the part that doesn't make any sense. And then if they want to say, a conspiracy theorist, throw that out there to try to shut someone down, or now even if they call someone a truther, that's a bad word now to ask for the truth. Harv's got it right on the money. I'm sick of war, and I think it's like if they were to come out and say, hey, everybody, we're going to go bomb this other country because we don't have the resource that we're gobbling up too much, and they've got it over there, and we're just going to take it from them. Who's with me? Come out, tell us the truth. And the scary thing is there's going to be a lot of people in America who will stand up and go, yeah, hell with them. We need it more than them, as if other people's lives are less than, right? And that's a reality, and that's why sometimes when you even pull the curtain back on some of these corporate media stations and say, can you believe this is it? People will actually say, yes, so I kind of like that. I believe in that. So we've really come across quite an eye-opening adventure here by making this film. The different people we meet, and obviously you get people who agree right on the money with you, and they're working to make this a better place, and you get other people who say, hey, yeah, let's strap the boots on, let's go over there. And I think I say this to a lot of people, especially when we do the film showings within the different colleges, universities, and we have a good audience of students, and I say, it's got to be something that affects you personally, I think, in order to make a stand, to make change. So what I say to everyone is, okay, everyone, you just saw the movie. What did you see in there? What's the reason why this is important, uncovering the truth? What's the reason we want to shine a light on these stories? And I'll start off and say, okay, something important to me. I'll start this off. I have a million reasons why, but one of them is like the environment. How does a company like an oil company get to just pollute an entire river, and the next thing you know, you've got, you know, an area in Louisiana that, you know, the bayou that used to be, you know, fishing and kids having a great time every year, swimming and eating, and now it's got a sign, do not touch, hazardous, you know, and you've got an area called Cancer Alley. Okay, like, how did a company get away with that? Okay, so for me, what these multinational corporations have been doing to the environment for the sake of profit is sickening. You understand? So then I'll say, okay, now you next. And then and a student will get up and say something, and, you know, you don't know what you're going to get. One person said, you know what, animal rights are important to me. You know, I mean, it's all across the board. But what I mean by saying that is it has to affect someone individually, it seems, to make a change. I can't hit them over the head and say, you need to stand up for the rights of others and all this. If they don't care, they don't care.
Right.
So what's it going to take? It's going to take them to find their own reason to be passionate, to want to take the fight. You know, and anyway, I was just having that talk with my buddy Mike Tierney over in Tierney's Tavern in New Jersey last time I was back, and he was right there with me. And I think a lot of people are.
Well, they need to start to examine themselves. You want to take another call?
Yeah.
All right. Caller, good evening. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Going good.
Good. How you doing?
Hey, pretty good, pretty good. Interesting show. I was just thinking about some past incidents which occurred with me where I actually was eye contact with Marwan Shiheh, one of the terrorists that flew into the buildings. So I am pretty, you know, I would say 100% sure that there was a Muslim agenda to fly the things. However, anything else, you know, woven in of deceit, you know, I kind of am on the sidelines there a little bit. You know, I'm not saying it's altogether not possible, but yeah, I do know for a fact that at least part of the whole Muslims flying the jets, that part is for fact. That's real.
I would agree with you. How about you guys?
Well, yeah,
and 9/11. Are you talking about the Trade Center, like that Muslim?
Yeah, the Trade Centers. 2 weeks after the Trade Centers, I had to call the FBI because I saw Marwan al-Shehhi. He was actually in Las Vegas. I believe he was probably finishing up training or beginning and finishing training on one of the small air flight simulators they had at the North Las Vegas Airport, which is a small airport, which also housed those kind of devices. So I would think if he was in Las Vegas, which they were noted to have been, some of them, they're probably there indeed training on those devices. Now, I'm not saying, though, you know, I'm starting to think more and more, though, that just because they flew the jets does not mean there wasn't some form of inside job altogether. You know, I do find it weird that Building 7 went down. However, I would also take into account that there's a possibility that it could have been just brought down by sheer acoustics, you know, alone, shock waves directed just by the way the collapse took place. You know, I'm not altogether against that idea. What do you think about that?
Well, I'll start with just one quick thing that, you know, how they were not able to locate the black boxes from the plane, but they were able to find this pilot's passport at the bottom of the rubble.
That's true. That is very, it's obvious, unusual fact right there.
There's some other interesting footage, too. The plane that apparently went down in the field in Pennsylvania, first time in aviation history that a plane goes down in this field, and all they find is a smoldering hole in the ground.
I do find there's a lot of unanswered questions. However, a lot of them can be answered with science, but we just don't know all the facts and data. And unfortunately, I do believe, though, more and more there has been some inside job, possibly tailor-made for Americans by some other entity.
Pretty sad, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, I'm starting to think more and more it maybe have to do with Illuminati or, you know, just secret groups that are actually operating America from an outside vantage point. An inside vantage point, but an outside vantage point as well.
Exactly. Hey, thank you for your call tonight.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's it definitely has people thinking, guys, and again, there's so many different possibilities. You know, the whole 9/11 deal. The one thing that the airplane in Pennsylvania, of course, a big one. The other is with the Pentagon.
Correct. I was going to bring that up next.
Yeah.
Because talk about. There was no plane that hit the Pentagon. Right after that, all the surrounding businesses, whether it was convenience stores, gas stations, whatever, all of their surveillance camera information was all confiscated, and we've never had any of that released. The only thing that they've ever released is a quick, I would say, explosion, which actually is exploding outward from the Pentagon. But they again, just like that field in Pennsylvania, they want you to think that this plane went down in the field, and it's a first in aviation history where a plane goes down, and all that's left is a smoldering hole. No airplane, no bodies, no nothing. And the same with the Pentagon. There was no evidence of an airplane or bodies from an airplane after the Pentagon was hit.
Right.
Yeah, and I just want to jump on that too, because that was one of the reasons that, another thing that kind of had me looking at everything, and I told this to Doug as well. My uncle who worked at the Pentagon, that was his office that got hit, and just a few days before the supposed plane hit it, he was ordered on a mission to go to Poland. He does things with like embassies and stuff like that, and he's in Poland watching his building get hit. And ever since he told me that at Christmas dinner one time, I just sat there thinking to myself, like, how the hell? I mean, because if you notice, the casualties in that office that were hit were smaller than they would have been if the whole staff was in there. Well, They weren't there; they were gone. So that says something right there. And yeah, there's definitely. You look at actually footage of if a plane really hit it and what you would have found compared to nothing.
Well, there's a couple people that have come forward, not many. But there's a couple of people that have come forward, and a couple of them have claimed they've seen it was some sort of a missile that fired quite low. And it's interesting, too, about like your uncle being dispatched out. It's kind of like Oklahoma City. Why did all those people get a phone call that morning and say don't come into work?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, the same with the the Twin Towers. There, both of those buildings usually had a lot more people
than normal
in them. Right.
Well, the caller that we had. Yeah, you have another call?
Yeah, you got another one stacked up. You want another one?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Caller, good evening. Welcome to Fringe Radio. You're on with Christopher and Doug.
Hello?
Hello?
Hey. I'm a guy that's had many a tyranny cheeseburger, and figured I'd chime in on my own comments.
Well, you got a lot of buzzing on your phone. It's making a real racket.
Is it any better now?
No, when you stop talking is when I can hear it.
You have the radio on at the same time? Maybe turn the radio down. Hello?
Yeah, it's just nothing but a static buzz. That's all I can hear.
All right. Maybe I'll have to call back.
Yeah, try that. We'll pick it up. Okay. Yeah, I don't know when he stopped talking is when it seemed to get a lot worse.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the radio, is that sometimes happen when the radio is on in the background or the live stream?
Sometimes, but usually no. It was just a buzz. Sometimes you'll hear we'll pick it up again. Good evening. Welcome to Fringe Radio. You're on the air.
Hey, Pat. It's Bill. How are you?
Oh, hey, my friend. How are you, Bill?
Good. How you doing, Doug and Chris?
Doing well.
Great, Bill. Thank you.
I have a question. A quick question for you guys. Due to the recent events that happened in France with Charlie Hebdo.
Yeah.
Some critics are saying that some of these cartoons, due to their provocative nature, should have maybe be censored. Even though I understand they have these cartoons with all types of religious faiths and political figures, but what are your thoughts on that? And also, do you think there are limitations on how far our freedom of speech and expression, due to the moral and ethical responsibility that a person has that is publishing this stuff has?
Yeah, that's a double-edged sword, because you're right. I mean, how far can somebody take it? I mean, freedom of speech should be freedom of speech, regardless of what is being said or cartooned or broadcast on the radio. But you're right; it's going to anger certain groups and possibly, like what happened in France, push people over the edge.
Yes.
I think, again, I guess it's up to that individual who's publishing that content. What are their moral and ethical values? But again, I guess my opinion is, irregardless of what somebody is writing or saying or portraying it in a cartoon, doesn't necessarily make justify them or other people being needlessly slaughtered and killed.
Definitely, totally agree.
Exactly. It just doesn't make sense. If you have a beef with the person who has created the content, write them a letter, drop them a line. But to do what was done in France is
guys, I gotta take a quick station identification. Bill, you want to hold for a little bit?
Yeah, I'll hold.
All right, you're listening to Fringe Radio. Christopher Oscar, Doug Hecker are here. We'll be back on the other side. Stick around. Welcome back to Fringe Radio. Our guests tonight, Doug Hecker, Christopher Oscar, our good friend Bill from New York on the phone. Go ahead, guys. Pick back up again.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing to Doug and Chris. When the interview came out, it seemed that alone was an attack on our free speech. Again, it was a sensitive topic because some people, even though it was satire, some people took it as a direct attack against a leader of a country, North Korea specifically. And now it seems that this what happened in France. There seems to be some type of correlation where freedom of speech and expression is being attacked. It's starting to spread. And I think there's a danger that if we allow this to go on, I am so glad that France is standing up in solidarity together with all the groups united, everyone is as one, and putting a front against these individuals or groups and these radicals, extremists. That's one thing. But it's also a danger that our media may start to censor what they feel is appropriate for us to see or not to see, and this could trickle down and have an effect on us here in the United States.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And, one of the worst forms of censorship is what's really happening with journalists, not just American journalists, but journalists around the world that are facing death. I mean, the attack on journalism over the past decade has been atrocious, and journalists are dying. They're putting their lives on the line and dying. Some are ending up in prison for life because they're reporting the truth and are portrayed as traitors to, whether it's our country or other countries. And it's a shame. You're right. I mean, since 9/11 here in the United States, one thing that Project Censored has talked about, and I've never heard any corporate media station talk about, is all the losses of our civil liberties.
Right. Right.
And it's, again, it's just one of those things that most Americans don't have any clue because, unfortunately, they're American idolized or Kardashian, or caught up in whatever it is that they're type of the form of distraction that they're watching.
Right.
And, pay attention, wake up, and that's what we really hope our film.
I'm sorry, guys.
No problem.
My mom was calling me. I have one of my fireplaces is actually going up in smoke, so I don't mean to cut you off, but I got to get off the phone. It was great to speak to you guys. And Pat, I'll talk to you soon, and you guys have a great night.
Take care.
Thank you, Bill.
Put the fire out, man.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Awesome.
That was kind of ironic because that's kind of what we hope our film will do, is put out the corporate media fire.
Exactly. And that whole hype on that interview, too, I mean, I had read that it was a disgruntled employee from within Sony that released everything, and here it is, all this information comes on that, and then the next day Obama comes on and he starts saying, yeah, we're going to sanction North Korea because they, did this cyber attack, and I'm going, wait, what's happening here? But it's, that story just never made it to the corporate media. They have their agenda. There's the whole pathway.
Without a doubt. You want to take another call?
Yeah, let's rock and
All
roll.
right. Caller, good evening. Welcome to Fringe Radio.
How you guys doing?
Good, good.
I'm actually really, really enjoying your show. This is the first time I've ever heard it, so
Well, thank you.
by the way. But I have a question for, what are the names? What are you guys' names, Doug and Chris?
Yep, Doug and
Yeah.
Chris.
Okay. I have a question for both of you. I know you guys are talking about this whole cartoon, this French bombing thing of the cartoon of Muhammad that was put out, by, was it some French cartoonist? I'm not 100% sure on the story because I don't watch the news. But, so, was it some French cartoonist that put this cartoon out?
Well, you there, Doug?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm listening.
You want to explain it to him, Doug?
Go ahead. You can take the lead on this.
You're talking about,
I've been talking a bit, so I'll let somebody else jump in.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, what's your name?
Kyle. Sorry, Kyle.
That's cool. Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, the publication, they're in France, and they've been attacked before, and they just kept going, and kept putting out what they did, and as you heard that, it's all over the news now, everything that happened over there, and like Doug was saying, anytime people have to resort to that type of violence because of that, it just doesn't make any sense. It's so tragic.
I do agree it is tragic, but I'm kind of a history buff myself. I studied it all through high school, all through college, and I've kind of looked at the use of cartoons as propaganda over the years. You look at what the white Americans did to the blacks with their propaganda of how they look with the big lips and the darker skin, the bigger forehead, the bigger brow. And you can look at what the Germans did with the Jews with the bigger noses and the curls down the side of their heads, things like that, to kind of slander these people. And I kind of see, I'm a big Larry Flint fan for what he stood for, of what he said in one of his interviews about 4 or 5 years ago when he said, freedom of speech should be free unless what you are saying is directly attempting to harass or assassinate someone's character. And the way that I feel about it is, I was in the military myself for 2 years. I do believe in free speech. I do believe in the ability to say what you should say, but people need to understand that there are consequences for every single action that you cause or that you do. And so I'm not saying that people need to be cautious of what they say, because I believe everybody should speak their mind and just not really care what people think about them. But, certain situations of, drawing a picture of the Prophet Muhammad in the Middle East that's very disrespectful to a religion, regardless of whether you believe it or not. It'd be like somebody drawing a picture of Jesus hanging upside down. It'd be
Right,
the same concept of how...
Right. I totally get that, and again, that kind of comes back to, the person who is creating that content, what is their moral and ethical obligation? But again, it comes back to, if somebody did what you said with Jesus, it doesn't mean that I'm going to get so angry that I'm going to go seek that person and kill them and shoot up, the whole company and kill, 12 people and take people hostage. That's where, things have gotten out of hand, and I agree,
Yeah, I do agree with you. I wouldn't do this. I mean, I myself am agnostic. I actually have a very Buddhist background to myself, but, it kind of, you're kind of, the way that I've seen this whole scenario is, you have your extremists in every single religion, regardless of what religion it is.
Right.
And it was the Islamic radicals, the same people that killed Gandhi, the same people that, attempted to out Malcolm X because of what he stood for. It's the same. Right. You have your radicalists in every culture, or every society, every religion, every policy, every political group, government group, whatever, that, we as a people in this society have taken upon ourselves to judge an entire religion because of a few people. 1%, literally 1% of that religion is violent, and that 1% is what's making the news. The the reason I don't watch the news is because I don't believe in mainstream media. I never have, and I never will, because it's entertainment to them.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. They'll point out, the extreme in anything, whether it's, religion or somebody who's robbing a bank or somebody who's creating, cartooning type content. You're right. And most, that's like pigeonholing and saying, all police are bad. I've got relatives and friends who are in law enforcement, and I just know that that's not true. But what's the media reporting right now? They're basically, the picture that they're framing is that all law enforcement people are bad, and it takes just like anything, just like in religion, it takes a small minority, a small handful of bad apples to basically spoil the whole orchard.
Exactly, and that's how I see it. It's kind of nice to talk to somebody that can actually discuss this without getting all defensive. But I live in Utah. I'm in the heart of Salt Lake. I've been slandered for what I believe and for the fact that I kind of have a very dark past. But I was Mormon at the time, and so I was criticized by the church. I was excommunicated by the church because of what I did. But I look at everything now as a whole of, we as people just stop being so judgmental of every situation. Just because something if someone says it's true does not necessarily mean it's the entire truth. Like they say, behind every myth or behind every legend there is some truth. Right. And so behind every propaganda film or every there is something ever made by somebody, or that somebody's attempt. Something is truth, and I will never deny that. But a lot of what's being put out now is hate. It's hate speech. And
yes, I agree.
That's how I can. It's like they talked about the whole Mike Brown thing. You have two completely different sides of the spectrum on that. It's not like you don't have your, he was doing he had robbed a store. It was small arms battery. And, he shot an officer. No, he was black, he was unarmed, and he was shot by a white officer. And that's how the media runs it.
Yes.
He was a black man that robbed a store, committed small arms battery, then ran at a police officer who was pointing a loaded gun at him. He committed small arms battery. The media got a wind of it and said, hey, we can make huge numbers off of this. Let's run it this way. Give our side of the story, let everybody else figure out the other side of the story. And in the same sense of all of that, now you have this whole thing happening in Fringe. Exactly. The media is looking at it as, here comes another chance for us to make big numbers.
Because what media is, corporate media, mainstream media, what they're there for, again, are the ratings, because the higher their ratings are, the more advertising dollars that they're going to, put into their shareholders' pockets. Yep. And it's a simple equation. It's eyeballs to advertisers.
Exactly. Hey, Kyle, thank you so much for calling tonight. We got to wrap up with these guys in just a minute.
I was actually going to right with you. It's kind of a suggestion. It's kind of based on this. I don't know if you guys listen to hip hop or not, but there's an artist named Immortal Technique. He's from New York. He has a song called The Fourth Branch. And I want you guys to listen to it because it talks about the fourth branch of the government being the media. So,
check it out.
Yeah, we'll definitely check it out.
It's interesting. It's got some vulgar language. I'm going to tell you that much. But what he says in it kind of will open your eyes to a little bit of what I said tonight. So,
and that's Immortal Technique. Is that what you said? Immortal Technique?
Immortal Technique, spelled just like it sounds.
Rock and roll. Yeah, I'll put it up on our Facebook Project Censored the Movie page right now for people to like it. Thanks for that.
No problem.
Okay, Kyle, thanks. Have a good weekend, my friend.
Hey, you too. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. A lot of strong opinions on all sides. And I think, again, it's about being open-minded and at least, let people come to the table and say what they will and don't stifle it.
Right. That's free speech. And it's... I think what America has sort of lost is dialogue, sitting around and discussing things, whether you agree with it or not.
Right.
Dialogue is what creates change.
Exactly. What's on the well, first of all, why don't you give out your website, and then for our listeners, if they want to go check out your stuff, where can they find it?
Well, Facebook is Project Censored the Movie.
Okay.
Our website is projectcensoredthemovie.com.
Okay.
And if you want to also connect with Project Censored, this is the Media Watchdog class that we based the film on. That's projectcensored.org. And they also have a Facebook page, Project Censored.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Any other films, any other things on the horizon for both of you?
Well, just getting us out there as much as we can in terms of, being able to have everybody be able to download, watch it, to purchase it through various outlets. So we're working on the distribution and also getting into the classrooms more and more. What we really want to see is a class, Project Censored the class, in every campus around. I'd even like to start up. Doug and I have been talking about a Project Censored the Movie class, where you take the Project Censored book that comes out every year and lists the top 25 stories, and have the students take the stories and do a short 3 to 4 minute little documentary on them. So then, we can be posting those. Because personally, I'm real visual. I see a film, and I love documentaries. So that's kind of an idea. We're going to be starting that up in the spring at the Petaluma JC. There's a professor I connected with who has journalism students and film production students together, and they study the media. So look for that coming this summer.
Very, very good. Well, again, I want to thank both of you. 2 hours went way too fast, and I hope that maybe in the fall or in the summertime we get you both back on again and rival up the troops.
Sounds good.
We'd appreciate that, Pat. It was great.
It's been an honor to have you both here. Again, Project Censored the Movie. Go take a look at the website. A lot of cool stuff out there. You can get the movie right there. Good luck on. Well, you don't need luck. You're doing it already. Just keep on trucking, brother. And thank you for taking the time to be with us here on a Saturday night and giving us some of your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, take care, guys. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye.
Good night. Bye-bye. All right, Christopher Oscar and Doug Hecker.